सदाशिवसमारम्भां शङ्कराचार्यमध्यमाम् अस्मदाचार्यपर्यन्तां वन्दे गुरुपरम्पराम्। ॐ पूर्णमदः पूर्णमिदं पूर्णात् पूर्णमुदच्यते पूर्णस्य पूर्णमादाय पूर्णमेवावशिष्यते। ॐ शान्तिः शान्तिः शान्तिः। ॐ नमो ब्रह्मादिभ्यो ब्रह्मविद्या संप्रदायकर्तृभ्यो वंश ऋषिभ्यो नमो गुरुभ्यः। So we were looking at the last portion of the Upanishad Bhashya here. This part, Bhashyakara is actually addressing the Tarkikas. So the Tarkikas are the logicians. They also say that there are many truths or many substances they talk about. Okay, so they start their entire darshana by listing out so many things are there like that. How did they arrive at it and all? They go by pure perception. So for them, pratyaksha is the main pramana, and then based on the perception, they do a lot of inference, anumana. So they claim that they are the experts in anumana also. So the entire Nyaya Darshana or Tarkika, these people, their viewpoints, if you take, it is all based on sense perception and inference. And then based on that, they are now saying that you are against sense perception. If you say that Brahman alone is there, and that is the teaching of the Upanishad, then what about all the different things we are seeing? So you are contradicting. So Pratyaksha is contradicting your teaching. Then Anumana also is contradicting, they are saying, because we see that there are many selves. Because in my body, I do certain things. Because of my initiative, my thinking only, my body also acts based on that. Similarly, other bodies also I am seeing, they are all having certain activity, and therefore I can do inference that there is another individual self as the indweller of that body. Like that, they are talking about Anumana. And then they also quote some Shruti Vakya also and say that you are also contradicting the Shruti, because the Shruti itself says those who desire for a certain thing, they can do a particular yajna like this. Shruti also is talking about karma and karma phala and karakas. Therefore, you are against all three. Like this, only the argument started. Okay. Then Bhashyakara, how did he address all these things? Means he said that simply he asked them one question for Pratyaksha also and Anumana also somewhat similar. But for Pratyaksha, he said that does the cognizance of different objects deny the oneness of the space? That was his question. So they also agree that space is indivisible. So even if space is indivisible in spite of the cognition of many different objects, what to talk about Brahman, which is even more subtler than the space also, and its oneness is not contradicted by cognition of any number of objects. Pratyaksha does not contradict whatever is taught by the Upanishad, because Pratyaksha only reveals the dharma. At a certain level, we have to understand that Pratyaksha is revealing to you different qualities. But what is the dharmi? It does not reveal. So the dharmi is only one. That's what we are talking about. You may see so many objects and all that, but even those objects, if you think they are all separate objects, but the real substance in that is only one, which is Satyam Jnanam Anantam Brahma. You are only cognizing all the different qualities, karma, action also you can cognize, correct? So you are cognizing certain things at the level at which your sense organs are operating, but that cognition does not reveal the truth behind whatever you are seeing. So, and there is no real contradiction. It is like even saying that classical mechanics is revealing certain things, but if you look at it from a different standpoint, quantum mechanics is revealing something else, correct? You cannot say that they are actually contradicting each other. They are operating at different levels. That's what Bhashyakara is trying to point out. Even before he pointed out, each pramana only reveals whatever it is its own vishaya, and they do not really contradict each other. So Swavishaya Shuranihi Pramanani, that also he pointed out. But anyway, so here the Pratyaksha part he addressed like that. Then Anumana, when it came to Anumana, he was just toying with the with all these Tarkikas because they claim that they are the experts in inference, correct? So he asked them a question. Who is doing the inference? That's all he asked. Okay. So you are saying that you are doing a certain type of inference, correct? It is there here. Prati shariram shabdadi upalabdaraha dharma dharmayoscha kartaraha bhinna anumiyante tatacha brahma ekatve anumana virodaha iti. So now he asked them a question. Bhinnaha kaihi anumiyante iti prashtavyaha. I am asking who is doing this inference that there are many things or many individual selves. Then if you say what sarvaihi asmabihi anumana kushalaihi, so all the people like us who are all experts in doing this inference, when you say that, then he is asking who are you again? Ke yum anumana kushalaha ityevam prishtanam kim uttaram. What is the answer for the question? Who are you people who are doing this anumana? Why he is asking that is to show that they do not know themselves properly. In fact, they according to them, any activity is dependent on multiple factors. Okay, aneka karaka sadhyatvat kriyanam, that is their siddhanta. In fact, we can also accept that. That's not a problem. So any activity depends on multiple factors of action, and doing and inferring also is an action. Therefore, according to them, the one who infers also is many. Correct? Many factors come together, and then only inference as an action can take place. So inference itself is done by many things put together, many factors coming together. So the inferer itself, if you take who is the inferer, means many things you have to say. They all have to work together for that inference to happen. And what are you inferring? That there are many things. So see the absurdity of this. That's what Bhashyakara is. You are already starting implicitly with many things, and finally what you are accomplishing after doing the inference also is that there are many different selves. Okay, so you people claim that you are great in doing inference, but you don't even know what is the implication or where you are really starting. What is your pratishtha? What is the basis on which you are doing the inference? In fact, your starting point itself starts with the assumption that there are many things. Then what is there to even infer afterwards? Correct? So that is why he even says very funnily, he says, Aho Anumana Kushalam, Kaushalam Darshitam, Apucha Shringaihi, Tarkika Bali Vardaihi. Like this, he's making fun of them. He says that all these Tarkikas are like bulls who do not have a tail and a horn, it seems. Okay. So he is making fun of them, showing that their contentions are all how absurd it is. So he says finally, that's what Yohi Atmanameva na janati. Those who do not know themselves, how are they going to do any anumana and arrive at whether there is Veda or Abheda? Okay. And again, more importantly, Atma is not available for inference. Okay, Atma is neither available for Pratyaksha or sense perception, nor is it available for inference, because there is no linga or or hetu. There is no linga or indication based on which you can do any inference about Atma. So Bhashyakara points that also, because Atma is an avishaya, avishayatvat atmanaha, and by itself also it doesn't have any difference in itself. That's why Upanishad clearly reveals it as ekameva advitiyam. So swatastu durad apanitam eva. By itself, by its very nature, it doesn't have any guna or kriya or any other quality based on which you can do any inference about it. Therefore, what this Atma is not available for any inference. Therefore, any inference you make about that there are many Atmas, etc., are all not correct. Okay. And then he is quoting some Shruti also to establish his own point. All these things we saw already. Okay, so everything is only Nama Rupa. Whatever you say that I am doing inference based on which I am doing some inference, all that basis are all only names and forms. Okay, and only this Brahman alone has become all this names and forms. So Brahman is the Utpatti Laya Karana, Utpatti Sthiti Laya Karana for all the Nama Rupa. And there is without Brahman there is no Nama Rupa really. Therefore, this Brahman itself is not a Anumana Vishaya. And similarly, whatever you said about that, basically he quoted some Purva Bhaga. That point we have already addressed. So the Karma Kanda is only talking about, or it is only addressed to one who has already taken oneself as a Karta Bhokta. So it is addressing an ignorant person, and whatever desires that ignorant person is having, it is giving you certain means to accomplish your desires. It does not address the truth of all these things, whether the Karta, Karaka and Karma Phala, all these things are really there and all that. That's not the subject matter of the Karma Kanda. Therefore, any number of quotation of Karma Kanda and saying that it actually contradicts with what the Upanishad is teaching is not valid. They have two different subject matter and they do not contradict each other, in fact. So Agama Virodha also, you can't say that. Then finally, one more point. This is where we were, I think, last time. Yaduktam Brahma Ekatve Yasmai Upadeshaha Yasya cha Upadesha Grahana Phalam Tad Abhavat Ekatva Upadesha Anarthakyam iti. So if you say that for whom is this teaching that Brahman alone is there? And by knowing this, what is the result or what is the phala? Okay. Now these two cannot be there because you say Brahman alone is there. If Brahman alone is there, who is the teacher? Who is the taught? There is no teacher, there is no student. Therefore, it's all useless, purposeless. The Upanishad does not have any purpose. This is a standard objection of any Dvaitin. Okay. So here, Bhashyakara again points out that to whom are you saying this? If you are saying to me, who is an Advaitin, I will accept that. Okay. Because see, so he says Tadapi na, whatever you have said, this is na, but how he is pointing out is Aneka Karaka Sadhyatvat Kriyanam Kaschodhyaha Bhavati. See, even this teaching is a Kriya. That means for the teaching to be there, there has to be many things. The student has to be there, the teacher has to be there, something has to happen, some means of knowledge has to be operated. So this Aneka Karaka Vishayas or Aneka Karaka Sadhyatvam means what? That which is accomplished by many factors of action is a Kriya, and teaching also is a Kriya. That being the case, who is being asked this question? That's what Bhashyakara is asking. Now, If you say ekasmin brahmani nirupadike na upadeshaha, let us say. So if you are addressing it to the person who says there is Brahman alone is there, and Brahman is Satyam, all upadhis are all mithya, so basically it doesn't have any upadhi also in reality. Now if you say that, and in that case there cannot be any upadesha or teaching, na upadeshaha. If you say that, means very well we accept that. In fact, not only na upadesha, he says na upadeshta, na cha upadesha grahana phalam, tasmad upanishadancha anarthakyam ityetate apyubagatam eva. Means what? We accept that Satyam Jnanam Anantam Brahma does not require any teaching, in fact. Correct? There is no teaching, there is no taught, there is no moksha phalam also. Who is there to be freed from what? So we accept that. That's not a problem. But that is only for one who is saying that Brahman alone is there. But what all others are saying, you all, in fact, Tarkikas, you accept that there are many. Correct? So when you are saying there are many, then teaching is very valid. Correct? Aneka karaka you are already accepting. Then for you, how can it become useless? Correct? So he is pointing that out. And also you also accept every darshana in India. They all say that you have to achieve certain knowledge. What that knowledge and all, there are some differences. But everybody accepts the usefulness of Upadesha or teaching. That's why ours is a teaching tradition. And we can have debates and all that, or we did have Shastrartha, different types of debates. So you are the one who is accepting all these karakas are there. Therefore, you cannot say that it is useless. In fact, it is useful for people like you who are ignorant of the truth. So, ata aneka karaka vishaya anartakyam chodyate. So, if you say that when there are aneka karaka vishayas are there, and for that person, if it is useless, if you question like that, then that is not correct. Na swataha abhyubhagama virodhat atmavadinam. So whoever talks about an atma which has to be freed, right? Because all darshanas are talking about a certain self which has to be freed from some kind of a klesha. Let us say some problems are there. Every darshana is trying to free you from some kind of a bondage. So all of you accept that there is a Atma which is ignorant and which needs to be enlightened. So teaching is necessary. So for you people only, in fact, teaching is necessary. Teaching is fruitful. This teaching will give you freedom from all limitations. So it will be, if you oppose this, then you are actually contradicting yourself. Swataha abhyubhagama virodhat. Whatever you have already accepted, correct? Teaching is required. People have to be enlightened. All these things are accepted by everybody. So those things you cannot question. Therefore, finally, what does he say? Tasmat tarkika chata bhata raja apravesham abhayam durgam idam alpa buddhi agamyam shastra guru prasada rahitaischa. So here, therefore, what he says, all these tarkikas, they do not consider the Veda as a mukhya pramana, we can say. Although they accept for namesake, for them pratyaksha anumana are the main means of knowledge. Veda is only second. Therefore, he is saying these tarkikas, he calls them chata. So, chata, our Anandagiri comes to the rescue. He says, Arya Maryadam, Bhindanaha, Chataha, Vivakshante. Like that, Anandagiri gives. Normally, chata means some kind of a rogue or a cheat. But here, Anandagiri gives a slightly better meaning. He says, those who do not keep up with a certain traditions of the Aryas, the noble, those who break the noble traditions. Like that, he gives a meaning. Means Chata. So these Tarkikas, they do not consider the Veda as a pramana. They do not know the Sampradaya also. That is why they are called, they are breaking the traditions. Chata and Bhata. Bhata also, Ananda Giri says that Bhatastu Sevakaha Mithya Bhashinaha. So those who are all like servants and those who just praise you for everything. Okay. Yes, men. And Raja, Bhata Raja means the one who is the Raja of all these people. Yes, men. So even behind, see, anybody who is saying something, there is a crowd around them. Even today it is like that, correct? Whether they really teach the tradition or not, if you are ready to teach some technique and some use of that will be there. We do not deny that, but then they all become very big. There is always a crowd behind everybody. So the Tarkikas here, Bhashyakara says they are Bhata Raja. So they are like the king of all these people who are saying yes, yes to anything they say. But for them, this Abhayam Brahma, this Brahman which is giving you fearlessness, correct? Abhayam Pratishtam Vindate. This is Durgam. It is not easily attainable for them. It is Apravesham. They cannot enter it. In fact, it does not enter into their head, in fact. So they are not able to understand this correctly. And because what? Alpa Buddhi Agamyam, Alpa Buddhi Agamyam. So their Buddhi is Alpa. They are limited. The way they try to understand everything, there is a lot of limitation in that. Therefore, they are not able to understand. And what is the limitation? They do not go by Shastra and Guru. So, Shastra Guru Prasada Rahitaischa. So, unless you learn from a Sampradaya with the one who knows the teaching methodology, unless you learn from such a Guru, this self-knowledge is too subtle. You can be very easily, you can go astray very easily. In fact, you can easily be misled. It has to be understood properly. It is subtle. Although it is in one way, it is simple. Once you understand it, it is very simple. It is all like magic only, correct? Initially, the magic looks wonderful, impossible. But once you know the reality behind that, it's very simple, correct? Like that, it's Atma Vidya also is in one way, it is simple only. But still, until you get it, it is not that simple. It's in fact very difficult. It is like walking on the razor's edge and all like that. Even Kathopanishad says that. And in fact, Bhashyakara quotes Kathopanishad here. So for those who do not have the prasada, means what? Prasada means normally we say that blessing, something like that you can say, or the clarity which is brought out by Shastra and Guru. For them, without that clarity, because prasada can also be taken as clarity. Without that, and those who are having only limited intellectual capabilities, for them, this Brahman is not, you cannot get it really. Durgam, it is very difficult. And he is quoting Shruti also to further substantiate this point. And this again is very interesting part in Kathopanishad. It says, Kastam Madamadam Devam Madanyo Nyatu Marhati. So other than me, Madanyaha Nyatu Marhati, who is capable of knowing this Kaha Tam, this Brahman, who is both Mada and Amada, means what? Harsha, Aharsha. Means one who is both Ananda and not Ananda also. Means having contradictory dharmas, qualities. In fact, before this, In the same Kathopanishad, it comes Anoraniyan, Mahato Mahiyan, Atmasya Jantor, Nihato Guhayam, Nihito Guhayam. Like that, Anoraniyan, Mahato Mahiyan also is contradictory, correct? That which is smaller than the smallest atom, bigger than the biggest, whatever cosmic thing you can think of. Anoraniyan, Mahato Mahiyan. Like this Atma is talked about. Means what? It transcends all measure of space. Basically, correct? It's not really contradictory. It is basically pointing out that all these spatial measures are only upadhi, conditioning factors. This Atma, in fact, transcends all upadhi dharmas. So whatever viruddha dharma, they are all there only in the upadhi or conditioning factors. Atma itself is untouched by all that. In fact, it is yourself. So Anoraniyan, Mahato Mahiyan, Atmasya Jantor Nihito Guhayam, like that it says, the Kathopanishad also. It is there in each and everybody's Buddhi Guha only, this Atma. Okay, it is available to you there as I, that consciousness is always available. So that is Atma, and it pervades everything. So I am the only one who can know that. Like this, I am here means Panditas like me. Like this, Yamadharma Raja is teaching Nachiketas here, and he is saying that I am the one who can know. In fact, this Kastam Madam itself is the second line of the Vakya, that again it says, Asino Duram Vrajati Shayano Yati Sharvataha. Kastam Madam, like that it goes. Asino Duram Vrajati. That this also is contradictory again. Sitting, it goes far away, it seems. So, and Shayano Yati Sarvashaha. So while sleeping only it goes everywhere, Sarvataha, all over the place, because it is all pervading. Okay. Therefore, all this Viruddha Dharmavan, like this you can say Atma is. So normally those who see or try to know this Atma as one of the objects in the world, even Paramatma, let us say, they are all deluded only. Okay, in fact, everything looks contradictory in this world. But Atma is something which transcends all these things, and only Panditas like me can know that. That's what Yamadharma Raja is saying here. So you cannot just arrive at it by doing some inference and all that. That's not possible. Sukshma Buddhi has to be there, subtle Buddhi. Then only this Atma can be known. Correct? Then again, another Devaihi Atra api Vichikitsitam Pura. So before, in fact, when Nachiketas asks Yamadharma Raja to teach this, Yamadharma Raja is not initially very forthcoming to teach. He gives him some 3 boons. You ask whatever you want and all that. In that, he is asking for this. So initially, but Yamadharma Raja is not ready to teach. He is trying to actually discourage our Nachiketas, but he is very clear about it. He shows his Viveka and Vairagya. So in that context, he even says that even Devas were confused about this, whatever you are asking me. Okay. And later on, this is also a very important point. Naisha Tarkena Matirapaneya. So by Tarka, do not let your mind be taken away by Tarka. Explicitly, it is there. In fact, there is a Brahma Sutra also in the Tarkapada. There is a particular sutra. Tarka Apratishtanadapi Anyatha Anumeyam iti chet evam api anirmoksha prasangaha. Like this, there is a sutra is there in the second chapter of Brahma Sutra. There also Bhashyakara takes up very interesting argument, because Tarka, in fact, this can be taken up as a current scientific thinking also, correct? Tarka is nothing but Even current scientific thinking is tarka, you can take, or current philosophers. Even recently I read one article, one philosopher himself is lamenting that all philosophers they are not able to come to any conclusion, it seems, because all philosophy is also starting with some assumptions, correct? In fact, sometimes we are even blind to our own assumptions. That is another problem. Okay, unless pointed out, or sometimes even if pointed out also, they are not ready to accept. Okay, it has to be pointed out sometimes, maybe then they'll accept. But all philosophy, all speculation is all only some kind of reasoning they do, but based on some initial assumptions. And each one will then contradict with the other. So they are not able to come to any, or even if you do some reasoning, somebody else comes and shows the fallacy in your reasoning. Like this, there is no end to it. Then is philosophy really even useful or not, and all they are asking now question. Like this, the tarka means inference has to have some basis, correct? But with reference to this Brahmajnanam, inference does not, in fact, in generally it is, this statement is made tarka apratishtanat. Okay. Then the Purvapakshi comes and says, no, how can you say that tarka does not have any basis? In fact, even this statement itself is a reasoning you are making. How can you say that then reasoning cannot be used and it doesn't have any basis? Then we we accept provisionally that within the world tarka is useful, but when it comes to Brahmajnanam, Atmajnanam, tarka is useless, because again the same reason is given, because Brahman, Atman does not have any linga. In fact, it is not a tarka vishaya at all. So on what basis you are going to do tarka about this Brahmajnanam, about this Brahman? You cannot do any tarka. You have no basis for that. You have to only go by whatever Shastra is revealing. Shastra Sammata tarka we accept. Based on, if you keep whatever the Shastra says as an axiom, and then you can build on that whatever you want to make that easily understandable, let us say, because tarka does help us to assimilate and give us certain clarity. But whatever the Shastra is revealing is the axiom, correct? So that is why many people nowadays, this problem is always there, correct? Veda is scientific is a big problem. We have already seen that Veda should not be scientific, because if Veda is scientific, I will rather read science than come and try to know what the Veda is revealing to me. Whatever the subject matter of the Veda is beyond all sorts of science, because science itself is nothing but pratyaksha and anumana only. And our traditionalists were very clear about it, correct? Pratyakshena anumitya va yastu upayona buddhyate yenam vidanti vedena tasmad vedasya vedata. Like that, there is a saying is there. It is there in Sayanacharya's Rigveda Bhashya Bhumika. So in the introduction to the Rigveda Bhashya, Sayanacharya says this. He says that whatever is not known through pratyaksha and anumana, that alone is known through the Veda. That is why it is Veda itself. The Vedasya Vedata is that only. Veda is a Veda, or a valid means of knowledge, because it is revealing something which is not available otherwise. Therefore, we cannot reduce it as something scientific. Veda can be said as axiomatic, maybe. Whatever Veda says, you have to take it as an axiom. Then you can have some tarka based on that to assimilate all this knowledge, or you can even arrive at some model and theory and all that, I think, whatever it is. Because some physicists are trying to do that now. Okay, so they are trying to keep the Vedic revelations as axioms and trying to build some theory from there onwards, because all scientific theories also have some kind of axiom, sometimes which are not even very intuitive. Okay, counterintuitive axioms are all there if you go into different scientific theories. But since the theory built on top of this axiom can be experimentally verified, you have to accept that theory at least is valid under the given boundary conditions and all that. Therefore, anyway, here the idea is what? Tarka does not have any basis, and even if you say we have to do tarka, by tarka whatever you arrive at, that will not give you moksha. That's what this sutra says. Okay, you will not get any, there will become Anirmoksha Prasanga will come if you say that I will try to know this Brahman through Tarka. Okay, because by Tarka, you cannot arrive at any conclusion, because one person's Tarka will be refuted by another person. In fact, Bhashyakara even quotes in the Bhashya, in Brahma Sutra Bhashya there, that Kapila is the Sankhya. Sankhya sutras were given by Kapila Muni, but whatever he said is contradicted by Kanada. Okay, so the Kapila says Pradhana is the Jagat Karanam, and all this Vaisheshika people, Kanada Sutra is there. They say that Paramanus are the ones which are the cause of this entire world and all that. So there is no, each of you have your own assumptions to start with, and you are not agreeing with each other, then there is no moksha possibility, correct? Because moksha means samyak jnanam has to be there. This Bhashyakara talks very beautifully in that portion of Brahma Sutra. See, when it comes to the truth, you cannot have many opinions. This is another problem nowadays. Okay, some people think that they are somehow intellectuals if they say that this also is possible, that also is possible, and all that. That's not intellectual rigor. Understand that when it comes to truth, opinions don't matter. You have to arrive at the truth, correct? What is the truth? Samyak jnanam means clear jnanam you have to have, clear knowledge, the knowledge which can never be negated by anything. That is knowledge. One person negating the another person means that is not knowledge anymore. So that way, if you are only going by tarka, one person's tarka is negated by another person's tarka and all that, and there is no, that is what the current, I told you, currently philosophers themselves are lamenting that philosophers cannot come to any consensus, any agreement on anything, in fact. Then it is Anirmoksha Prasanga, correct? There is no possibility of any moksha or freedom or anything. You are only going round and round in circles, arguing with each other. So you have to accept Shruti Pramana. Accept Shruti Pramana, whatever it is revealing, and then build your Tarka on top of that. That is fine. That is what is called Shruti Sammata Tarka, and we are okay with that. So he quotes this Naisha Tarkena Matirapaneya. This is also from Kathopanishad only. And also there are many other Shruti and Smriti. Varaprasada Labhyatva Shruti Smriti Vadebhyascha. So you should have the Guru and Shastra Prasada only, and also even Devata. Devatas also have to bless you. With all their blessings only, we can gain this knowledge. There is no doubt. And those who do not accept the Veda as a pramana properly, and those who are doing Devata Ninda, they all cannot gain this knowledge. That's what Bhashyakara is pointing out here. Because Shruti, Smriti and Nyaya has established that you have to have a certain blessings, grace. Okay. Yamaiva Yesha Virnate Tena Labhyaha. Like that is there, even in Kathopanishad itself. So the one who is chosen by this Atma, here Atma means we have to take it as, we can take it as Paramatma also, but or the one who chooses this Atma alone knows also, we take a meaning like that. Both way we can take that meaning. But there is a element of grace always. So Manushyatvam, Mumukshutvam, Mahapurusha Samshrayatvam and all we say. All these things are there. Only Ishvara Anugraha Deva. Okay, Ishvara Anugraha has to be there. Some Purva Punya has to be there even to listen to the Shastra, I think. Otherwise, nobody will have even interest to come to all this Brhadaranyaka class and sit through all this Bhashya. So some Punya has to be there. Otherwise, you cannot even sit through this class. So this Varaprasada is very important. Because of that only you are going to get this Jnanam. Then only you can understand what the Shruti is saying. You have to surrender to the Shruti. Then whatever it is revealing will become clear to you. There is no doubt about that. And again he is quoting all this. He himself explicitly says no. See, tad ejati, tan naijati, tad dure, tad vantike. This is Ishavasya. Here also again contradictory dharmas are all given here. Okay, tad ejati means what? This goes, it seems, but it does not go. Na ejati also, because by itself it doesn't move anywhere. Upadhi krita, whatever Veda is also there. Because of Upadhi, it looks like it is going somewhere, but it doesn't go anywhere. Tad ejati, tan naijati, tad dure, tad antike. So it is far away. Means Bhashyakara in this Ishavasya Bhashya says far away means what? For those who do not have this Guru and Shastra Upadesha, for them it is too far. You cannot reach this Atma at all, he says beautifully. But it is very near for whom? For those who are studying the Shastra. It is yourself, correct? It is the closest, it is the nearest. So like this, even here, so ityadi viruddha dharma samavayitva prakasha mantra varnebhyascha. So all this mantra varna is there here. This Ishavasya is a mantra Upanishad, we say, because it is the only Upanishad which is there in the Samhita portion of the Veda. So this mantra varna also is pointing out that Atma is having all this viruddha dharma, only to show you that Atma really transcends all these dharmas. But for a Tarkika, it is not very easy to understand all this. Therefore, that is why it is very difficult for them. It doesn't reach them, or they cannot enter into this jnanam. And even in Gita, the same thing is there. Gita Sucha, this 9th chapter is very interesting. So, Matstani Sarva Bhutani, like that Bhashyakara quotes here. The actual verse is Maya tatamidam sarvam jagadavyakta murtina matstani sarva bhutani nachaham teshva vastitaha nacha matstani bhutani pashyame yogam aishwaram, like this Bhagavan says. So first, so Maya tatamidam sarvam, he says everything is pervaded by me. Okay, who is Jagat? This entire Jagat, sarvam jagat Maya tatam idam jagat. This whole world is pervaded by me, who is but I am avyakta murtina. Okay, I am who is really unmanifest, who is not really vyakta, but I am the one who is pervading everything. And all these beings, all these objects are all there in me. Matstani sarva bhutani, he says, but I am not there in them. Nachaham teshu avastitaha. Okay, so how can we understand all these statements? Immediately he says nacha matstani bhutani pashyame yogam aishwaram. Correct? All looks very contradictory. Unless you understand what is satyam and mithya, all these statements will be very, very confusing. So when he says matstani sarva bhutani, it is like saying the clay is saying all the parts are in me only. Correct? Because when you look at the part, you cannot, particularly a clay part, you cannot even visualize a clay part without clay. If you touch the pot, you are touching the clay. You are weighing the pot, the weight of the pot is really weight of the clay. So every which way, if you look at it, the pot is nothing but clay. Okay, so you can say that pot is there in clay. But when we talk about clayness, okay, you try to understand clay. In clayness, there is no partness. In your understanding of clay, there is no partness. Understand that. But a clay pot always is clay. That's how you have to understand. Mastani sarva bhutani means in me all these parts are there, like this clay can say. But nachaham teshu avastitah. But when you try to understand clay as clay, there is no partness or anything else, plateness or whatever in the clay. Then immediately you can say, since all this are only names and forms, the pot, plate, jug, whatever you make out of clay, they are all only names and forms. They don't have any independent reality of their own. They are all mithya. So only Satyam alone is there. If you look at it like that, then you can say nacha matstani bhutani. In fact, there is nothing in me. In fact, I am clay. By myself, I am always clay. All these parts, plates, whatever you say, they are all only names and forms. They don't really count, in fact. That is my Pashyame Yogam Aishwaram. Aishwaram Yoga. Bhagavan says that is my glorious yoga. So all these seemingly contradictory statements are all there. Unless you have a sampradaya with teaching you, unless you have the prasada of the Guru and Shastra, all these things will not reach you correctly. You can get confused. Therefore, what? Tasmat Parabrahma Vyatirekena Samsari Nama Na Anyat Vastu Antaram Asti. So finally he is concluding. Therefore, what? Parabrahman alone is there. Other than that, Samsari, like that, there is nobody, he says. Samsari Nama Na Anyat Vastu Antaram Asti. There is no separate entity called a Samsari. Samyak Sarati iti Samsari. The one who goes from one thing to another, one who leads a life of becoming, one who is the limited individual self, who takes oneself as lacking things, and because of seeing oneself as a wanting person, you have to do something to get rid of that want. Like that, it is an endless process. It's a vicious cycle. You keep on going and going and going only to find that there is nobody like that. Okay. Brahman alone is there. You are really the conscious being who is conscious of all whatever is there. In your presence, everything is happening, really speaking. So that is the knowledge. There is no samsari. Brahman alone is there. Satyam Jnanam Anantam Brahma. That alone is there. There is no separate samsari. Therefore, what? Tasmat Sushtu Uchyate. Therefore, it is said well said. Already it was said in 1.4.10, correct? Brahma va idam agre asit tad atmanam eva vet aham brahmasmiti. So this we saw in lot of detail. So Brahman alone was there initially, and it knew only itself. Tad atmanam eva vet. Okay. Aham brahmasmi iti. I am this Brahman, I am this limitless. So initially it was ignorant and took itself as a limited being, and then, but that knowledge takes place means that Brahman alone has now knows itself as Brahman again. Tasmat sarvam abhavat, like that it continues. So what is the phala of this knowledge? You become everything. And another, this also in fact is a quotation from Brhadaranyaka only. Later the Gargi, this Yajnavalkya Gargi Samvada will come in the 3rd chapter. Nanyad ataha asti drashtru, nanyad ataha asti shrotru, like that it keeps on going. It's a big one, in fact. Okay, it's a very interesting section. This Atma, other than this, there is no other thing who is the seer. Like this, it is revealed very beautifully. The nature of this Atma, Yajnavalkya is revealing to Gargi there. Okay, so that also Bhashyakara is quoting here. Ityadi Shruti Shatebhyaha, he says. Like this, there are hundreds of Shruti. Means Brahman alone is the Drashta, Shrota, Manta, Vijnata in each and every Upadhi. Okay, each and every Antakarana. Brahman alone is all these things. Other than Brahman, there is no knower. There is no thinker. There is no seer. There is no hearer. Whatever you say, all these things are only Brahman. Because that is the only thing, only conscious being. So you are really this limitless conscious being. You are the invariable in whom everything is superimposed, really. Whether any spatial constraints you take, all that are superimposed. That is why even zero is very interesting in India, correct? Zero, we say is puja. Why is? Because we really don't have any zero. Even if you remove everything, there is somebody to cognize that nothing is there, correct? There is no real vacuum according to us. Even if you say physical vacuum is there, who is saying that? There has to be consciousness. That consciousness is puja, in fact, for us. That's why in all Indian languages, zero is called puja. You can take away all names and forms. What remains then is Bhagavan's vibhuti again. Correct? Vibhuti also is same tattvam for us. So you burn everything means what you are doing? You are removing all the names and forms. What remains is vibhuti, ash. It's only one thing, correct? Ash alone remains. All the names and forms comes into the fire. They are all gone. What remains is only one thing. Like this in the Jnanagni also, all names and forms go into that, and whatever is left is only Brahman alone is there. Even time also is the same thing, correct? Time also you can envisage small time, nanosecond, picosecond, and all that, are very big time, so many billions of light years. But all these things are only who is cognizing all these things. Change itself is a superimposition on the changeless, correct? Unless the changeless, invariable witness is there, you cannot even know the change. This is the argument we make with Buddhist also, correct? Change itself is, you cannot, unless there is a recollection, change cannot be even cognized. And for recollection to happen, there has to be an invariable between each cognition. You are that invariable. Pratibodha viditam matam. This is what Kena Upanishad also says the same thing. Bodham bodham prati. So this Atma is known in each and every cognition, it seems. But normally we are also focused on the object of knowledge. We miss the, or we take this Atma for granted. Because in each and every cognition, really this conscious being, which is the invariable, is revealed. And that is you. But that we miss. Because we are all only cognizing the object of knowledge, which is revealed through a particular cognition. Object is revealed, fine. But these objects keep on changing. And they are all mithya. And every cognition resolves only in you, this conscious being, who is in fact nirvikalpa. So my Guruji used to always say, what is this nirvikalpa? Nirvikalpa and all that means what? Nirvikalpa means knowing that each and every cognition resolves into you only, who is free from all this vikalpa of knowing, a knower, known, knowledge, etc. All that is only mithya again. So this knowledge is the real nirvikalpa, nirvikalpaka jnana. Okay, because there is no vikalpa in me. I am a conscious being, means I am one whole. I, this sense of I itself, you cannot have any bheda in that. Understand that it is always a cognition of yourself as a whole. Even as a person, I am always a whole. There is no half me, quarter me, and all that. It is never like that. Even though your body may have some deficiencies, one person may not have one leg. That doesn't make that person, or his own self-consciousness is not that I'm only 3/4 of a person and all that. So our sense of ourselves is always as one whole conscious being, and there is no vikalpa in that. There is no division or anything in our own understanding of ourselves. But that, even that, we take it as an individual and limited because we wrongly identify with this body mind sense complex. So it's all only a wrong notion. It's all only because of this wrong identification. Taking whatever I see as I is the biggest problem. Because the basic viveka in Vedanta is what? You have to keep on repeating it till it becomes sahaja, we say, correct? Natural. Is that whatever I see is not I. That's all. The Vedanta sadhana means the easiest and the greatest is what? Just to understand that whatever I see is not I, and try to detach this sense of identity which you have on your body mind sense complex. One has to detach it, at least as much as possible. You have to make an effort there. That only is going to give you a certain freedom. Otherwise, all limitations of body mind sense complex becomes my own problem. And you can work on getting rid of those problems and all that, but till when? You cannot. Till when are you going to do that? When will the waves coming? Waves will stop, and then you said, "I'll take water from the sea." Waves are never going to stop. In fact, waves themselves are only water. That's what one has to understand. One has to understand that and take the water, whatever water you want to take it. Both ocean and water are ocean and wave are nothing but water. You don't have to wait for the waves to stop to know that everything is water. Correct. So at some level, we have to keep doing sadhana to keep preparing ourselves. The mind also has to be prepared, but at some level, we have to see things as it is. Correct. I am not anything which I cognize. I am not an object of knowledge. Any object of knowledge is not I. I am the one who is the subject. I am the one who is cognizing that I am that conscious being who is the invariable in each and every cognition. That invariable, if you are able to understand, then you have understood yourself. That is where you have to have certain clarity, and as that clarity grows, then the freedom also is there. You are free from all limitations, really, and that freedom is something one has to enjoy. Even right here, you have to enjoy. That is the only freedom. When you actually see clearly that I am not any of these things, and all these things which I see, their problems, their deficiencies, their defects, I am taking it as my defects. That is the beginning of all the problems. So that is where one has to attack this. And if you see that, then there is no real samsari, in fact, correct? Only Brahman alone is there. That's what Bhashyakara says there. Samsari nama na anyat vastu antram asti. There is no separate samsari or anything. You are always the same conscious being. That is why you are Satyam. You never change your nature, correct? So once you ascertain your true nature, that nature never changes. That is why you are the only reality. You are Satyam. Everything else is Mithya, because they all are part of a cognition. They are all objects of cognition which keep on changing. So in each and every cognition, know yourself as the Satya Vastu, and then there is no real samsari or anything. Therefore, that is why this Brahman alone can be called Satyasya Satyam. In fact, the whole thing we started with that secret name, correct? That Upanishad means here secret name. What is the secret name for Brahman? Whether in fact that secret name itself is for Brahman or Jiva, like that we started the discussion here. So Bhashyakara ends with that. He says, Tasmat Parasya Eva Brahmanaha Satyasya Satyam Nama Upanishad Para. So the epithet Satyasya Satyam, this can be only applied to Brahman, Param Brahma alone, and not for anything else. And with this Adhyaya we have completed. Then we'll go into the next Brahmana, not the Adhyaya. Sorry, we have completed the first Brahmana of the second Adhyaya. So from next week, we'll go into the second Brahmana. Om Purnamadah Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate पूर्णस्य पूर्णमादाय पूर्णमेवावशिष्यते। ओम शांति शांति शांति। हरि ओम श्री गुरुभ्यो नमः। हरि ओम।
धन्यवादः।
धन्यवादः जी।